Today, we're going to talk about the guide to emotional intelligence, which will be your secret weapon in your leadership journey, moving from manager to all-time leader. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever watched a leader completely implode when pressure hits? I have. And let me tell you something. Their fancy degrees, their MBAs, their technical skills meant absolutely nothing when emotions ran hot. So, welcome to the Business Mechanic Show. I'm your host, Sigmund, co founder of Results Driven Leadership. And today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the one superpower that separates the core office legends from the middle management lifers, and that's emotional intelligence, EQ. So, listen up because I'm about to share what isn't taught in business schools, folks. This is the raw, unfiltered truth about why some leaders inspire unwavering loyalty, get everything done, drive engagement and likability scores like no one else. And others, they lose 50% of their folks every year because of poor leadership qualities that can be fixed. And this is one of the most important things to get your arms around and start working on. Also, during this, I'm going to offer a very valuable free tool for you to download that will give you a jump start to understanding your level of EQ and the single best way to begin your journey to EQ mastery. And by the end, you'll understand exactly why your EQ matters more than your IQ, how to spot the emotional intelligence masters they may be hiding in plain sight, and the street smart techniques to level up your emotional game fast. So buckle up. This is not your HR department's fluffy workshop on feelings. No kumbaya here. This is your battle plan for dominating the modern business landscape where emotional intelligence, especially today, isn't just nice to have, it's the whole damn ballgame. So let's start here. What the hell is EQ anyway? Emotional intelligence isn't just some fluffy corporate buzzword. It's the razor sharp ability to recognize, understand, and masterfully manage emotions. Your emotions drive others. Make sure you understand your emotions are contagious. It's underlying all of this. So the better you manage your emotions, are aware of how you come across, how you react or get triggered by things, the more powerful you can be as you notice and set game plans in place to improve that. Both yours and everyone else's around you, their emotions are going to drive their results. And while your IQ might get you in the door, it's your EQ that'll put you on the executive suite. It'll move you up the ladder. It will reduce your stress. It will improve your output. It'll reduce your workload. It'll remove you from having to be the human Google machine that everybody runs to all day, every day to get answers. That may be a little maddening at times. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who just gets people, who can walk into a room, instantly read the emotional temperature, someone who knows exactly what to say and when to say it, and you go, wow, that was really good. You need to remember how they did that. That's high EQ. That's EQ in action. A little history that the concept of EQ was popularized by a psychologist, Daniel Goleman, back in the 90s. That's when I first started hearing about it. I'd seen the elements of EQ in some of the leaders I worked with. I tried to adopt many of those approaches because I just thought it was so damn cool. And it was so powerful for them. And it seemed to create less work and stress. And I said, wow, I'm going to sign up for that. And as books were written and courses were created, I got myself deeply involved in learning how to improve my own EQ. More importantly, how I could help others like you improve theirs. And make no mistake, this has been around forever. The most influential leaders throughout history have been wielding this power all along. We just didn't have a fancy name for it. So, Vaughn, why should I give a damn about EQ? And here's the stone cold truth. Glad you asked that question. Your technical skills might make you competent, but EQ or emotional intelligence makes you unstoppable. The data doesn't lie. It's everywhere. Leaders with high EQ outperform their peers by miles. It's the difference between mediocrity and huge success. Leaders with high EQ, and I'm going to give you some examples in a little bit. Their teams are more engaged, more productive, and more loyal. They navigate crisis like champions. They build relationships that open doors to opportunities that others don't even know exist. And in today's hyper-connected business world, where collaboration is currency and adaptation is survival, I love this saying, if you don't like change, you're going to hate extinction. So we have to be in the mindset of constantly learning and growing and getting better at who we are and what we do and how we apply it. And friends, EQ is not optional. It's essential, period. So now I'm going to share the 7 unmistakable signs of leaders with elite levels of EQ. Let's cut through the noise. Here are the 7 dead giveaways that someone's operating with premium grade emotional intelligence. First one, this is hard for a lot of people. It's not impossible, it's hard. It takes a very driven consciousness of this, and that's your ability to listen. Great leaders listen very well, like their lives depend on it. Leaders with high EQ don't just wait for their turn to talk. They listen with their entire being. They maintain eye contact. They ask clarifying questions. They remember details from previous conferences, and often that'll blow your mind if you're on the other side of this amazing leader. Let me give you a real world example. I just saw this week an interview with the newer CEO of Chili's. And at this point in history, Chili's, compared to the rest of the fast casual restaurant chains, are killing it. Their sales are up 20, 30%, where others are filing bankruptcy. Literally, their competitors are filing bankruptcy, and Chili's is thriving. But they weren't thriving before Kevin Hochman showed up. He became the new CEO of Chili's. And let me tell you about the day Kevin Hochman walked into Chili's number 3429 in Dallas. Kevin's a very casual guy, very down to earth. He's wearing khakis and a polo, looking nothing like the perceived CEO's attire. The restaurant was half empty at peak hour. It was before the big turnaround. A perfect snapshot of the mess he had inherited when he took over the struggling chain about 6 months earlier. And he didn't announce himself. He didn't have an entourage. He just showed up, slid onto a bar stool, and started chatting up the bartender like they were old fishing buddies. And Kevin asked everybody he encounters in his stores a couple of the same questions. One, if you're sitting in my chair, the CEO chair, not this perfectly adequate bar stool, what's the first thing you change about this place? And very often people are a little shy about responding to something like that because they don't want to get hammered down for saying something that maybe is sacred to this particular executive. But Kevin really wants the answer. Like many high-level, turnaround, highly successful CEOs, he maintained perfect eye contact. Bartender glanced around, making sure no managers were within earshot. The bartender said, honestly, let's fix the damn fries. So Hochman, he leaned in and says, tell me more. He's very curious now. What unfolded over the next 20 minutes was pure restaurant gold and the perfect example of high levels of EQ. You see, it turned out Chili's had required a certain approach to cooking their fries. They had 2 types of fries. They had curly and straight fries. The curly fries came pre-seasoned, but the straight fries, they required the line cooks to manually season them using a special shaker with exactly the ingredients that are supposed to be in that shaker. Remember, this is a chain restaurant with very standardized approaches to preparing the food is in place. And they had a training manual. And the training manual says, and I'm not making this up, that we have to shake the seasoning shaker exactly 30 times. Not 29, not 31, 30 times. And the line cooks have to literally count to 30. And the bartender says, Kevin, no way. The cook's arms are going to get tired. They're going to get bored. It takes too damn long. They'll give it a few shakes of seasoning, and guess what? The fries don't taste so great. But they're under the gun back there to get the food out on time and hot and ready. And Logan says, really, 30 shakes? Who came up with that? And the bartender responded, some corporate kitchen wizard who's probably never worked a Friday night rush. We're all doing these ridiculous shake dances while customers wait and food dies under the heat lamp and tastes like crap. So Kevin, he pulled out a little black book and jotted something down. And he asked another question that many top leaders are not afraid to ask. What else falls into the category of stupid stuff we make you do? And this question has become Hochman's signature move as he visited every region in the Chili's empire. And he constantly is touring stores. He talks to managers, he talks to waitstaff, bartenders, all of the line cooks with the same questions. What would you change if you were the CEO? And what stupid stuff did we make you do every day? That is so brave to ask. And his ego has been removed because he really wants the truth. Without the truth, he can't fit with the people who deploy the processes, greet the customers, cook the food all day, every day. They know. Your team knows. They do it every day. But many ineffective leaders don't ever ask, how do we fix this? So I'm moving on to, as he toured stores, more Chili's, the fry situation came up over and over again. In Phoenix, a line cook demonstrated the absurd 30 shake technique, comically counting out loud. Tickets were backing up. In Atlanta, a server admitted that they started pre-mixing batches in the morning, not server, line cook, pre-matching batches in the morning, which directly violated the protocol. He needed to get the food out on time. So fast forward a little bit, 2 weeks later, Hogan called an emergency meeting with his culinary team. And they met in the corporate kitchen, and he placed a basket of straight fries on the conference table that existed in that room, along with the infamous seasoning shaker. And he asked his team there, I want each of you to season these fries exactly as our training requires. And being a bold and brave leader, the VP of menu development steps up. He'd been with the company 15 years. He picks up the shaker and he starts performing the 30 shake ritual as the rest of the menu executives watched in painful silence. And when he finished, Hoagman slid a document across the table, a simple one-page solution that revolutionized Chili's operations when it came to fries. They made the holes in the seasoning shakers bigger. How simple is that? He got that from one of his line cooks. Make the holes in the shaker bigger. I can get more seasoning now, but it will require me to put the fries in a bowl, season, toss, season, and they're ready to go. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, going a couple seconds. Ta-da! Great tasting fries, fast. Way less time than we're supposedly taking to get. They calculated it saved close to 20 to 25 seconds per order. And Hoagman, being a smart CEO, says multiply that, but multiply 17, 20 seconds by the number of fry orders in a day across 1,600 restaurants. And the math added up to 7,800 hours of labor in a year, all because we were telling people to do something that was silly. And this fry fix became one of the many common sense revolutions that helped Chili's regain its footing. He asked the opinions of the people who actually worked with the customers every day. They got the direct feedback. They got the complaints. They got the compliments. They saw what was selling. They knew how to put it together. They wondered, why the hell do they make me do this dumb thing all day? The stupid stuff. And within a year, Chili's customer satisfaction score had jumped by 27%. That's unheard of. And guess what? With satisfied customers, what comes along with it? Sales improvement. Started getting sales improvement for the first time in 6 quarters. This is strange, but it goes right with it because now the word is spreading through the restaurants that, hey, Kevin cares. He's going to fix all these things we want to get fixed. Employee turnover dropped by a third, all because the CEO had the balls to ask the simple question, what dumb stuff are we making you do? So sometimes the most powerful turnaround strategy isn't some fancy consultant's 100 slide deck. It's just shutting up and listening to the people who actually do the work. So listen like a champ. Don't interrupt and ask the hard questions, the ones that maybe you don't want to hear the answer to, because those are the answers that often are going to be the turnaround. So I took a little extra time on that one. They're not all going to be that long because I told you there's 7. That was 1. Let's talk about number 2. They own their mistakes. They own them fast and they own them fully. They take responsibility for not only what they do, but what their team does. They do not play the blame game. Average leaders play the blame game. They're looking for some nail to pound when things go wrong. But exceptional leaders take responsibility like it's their middle name. Quick quiz here. What's the 3 most important words in leadership? I'll give you the answer. It's my fault. If that is the heart of how you handle shortcomings, situations, mistakes, not hitting numbers, it's my fault. You own that. Your team knows that you own it. And they also know a great leader who understands it's my fault. They know if the team comes up short, makes mistakes, or underperforms, they're the primary reason. Truly, they don't talk it, they live it. They quickly look inwardly. What could I have done better? Why did my team member or my team members come up short? They look inwardly to understand what they should have done better to set their team members up for success. Now, I've included in the show notes today a very important tool. I did a whole podcast on this years ago, but download this document I prepared for you, the 16 reasons employees don't do what they're supposed to do. And you'll find out it was the most important book in my leadership journey. I found it back in the 70s. It's from an author, Ferdinand Fornes. It's out of print, has been for years. But it was a major turnaround for me as a leader that moved very quickly up leadership ranks. I was a regional manager when I was 24 years old, but this book was a major catalyst to that. Opportunity meets talent and drive, which I had loads of. You're going to get there, but you need the talent. And owning mistakes is one of those talents. Your self-esteem has to be quelled and accept the fact that you had a very strong hand in shortcomings. Let me give you a real world example of this, a short one. Marcus, he was a senior VP at a multinational company. He realized his directive that he put out to his team had caused a project delay costing thousands. So Marcus, owning his part in this, called an emergency meeting. And instead of finding scapegoats, he said, team, I made a critical error in judgment and I own that completely. Here's my plan to fix it. I need your input as well. His team respect for him went through the roof. Just showing this vulnerability, I always have trouble with that word, vulnerability, created a culture where people weren't afraid to admit mistakes. If he's willing to admit to his mistakes, imagine how that contagion affects his people. Now they know it's okay to admit their mistakes. And when the leader owns their mistakes, the team owns their mistakes, they're working in collaboration for constant improvement, continuous improvement. Guess what the byproduct of that is? A very hefty, hearty problem-solving system and innovation across the board. You know what you're doing dumb and you can fix it. So own it. It's my fault. Number 3, they navigate conflict like master chess players. High EQ leaders don't avoid tension. They lean into it. They lean into it with strategic precision because they know when I see tension that something's wrong and I need to fix it. I don't know where that tension's coming from, but it's there. And wherever I see it coming from, whether it's a team or a person, that's slowing my team down. That has potential of creating long-term negative consequences. So high EQ leaders, they stay cool, especially when emotions are running hot with others, and they find win-wins. Lean in to tension, high emotionals. Give me another real world example. Dana, she was a hospital administrator and she faced two department heads that were locked in a territorial battle over resources. And instead of forcing a compromise, she brought them together and facilitated the conversation. She masterfully reframed the conversation around patient outcomes. Instead of those department heads being to their agendas, she opened their minds up to what's the best thing for our patients, which is their shared purpose. And she acknowledged both sides' frustrations before she started asking that, what do we need to change to best serve our patients? This created an emotional redirection, which transformed these competitors into collaborators. And they developed a resource sharing system that became a model for the entire hospital network. Pretty proud moment for Dana, just from leaning into conflict. Number 4, leaders just read the room better than a world-class poker player. These leaders pick up on subtle emotional cues. They're looking for it. They've created a sensitivity to it. And often those emotional clues fly by everybody else because they're not looking for them. They come in with their agenda. They create a lot of monologues, not dialogue with their teams. Now, high EQ leaders are really listening and watching their team members, and they notice things like crossed arms or no eye contact or facial expressions, slight tones that shift. They can feel a lack of enthusiasm that's normally in the room. It's an extra sense that you can develop. Tell you an example of Carlos, who was a sales director. He was presenting a new strategy to his team when he noticed some micro expressions of concern from his very enthusiastic top performer. While many other leaders who were not tuned into this would have just plowed ahead, Carlos paused and said, Sarah, then she might have some thoughts on this approach. And because he did this, opened the door for Sarah to share crucial market insights that, frankly, Carlos had not accounted for. Can't tell you how many times this has happened to me. It's the solution to everything. And then because I took this same approach, somebody say, oh, Vaughn, you might want to hold on that for a minute. They would explain the consequences and maybe some conflicts around actually being able to do that, the what ifs. So they adjusted the strategy. They understood the potential pitfalls, so they got avoided. And man, it worked out great. Sales shot up double digits. That's collaboration, reading a room, and leaning in when you see tensions. Number 5, high EQ leaders tailor their communication style to each audience. There's no one size fits all communication. That's for amateurs. Leaders instinctively know how to modify their message for maximum impact with different people, whether it's one-on-one or with a group. Let me give you an example of this from Alina. She was a project manager at an engineering firm. And she communicated the same critical deadline to 3 different stakeholders in 3 different ways because she knew her players and she knew how they translated information. Some needed less details, some needed more details, some needed to be allowed to ask more questions, some she had to draw information out of. She knew the communication styles of each of the people they were, the stakeholders that she was delivering this deadline and project plan. Data-heavy slides for the analytical executive, a story-based explanation for the big picture client, and a step-by-step breakdown for her detail-oriented team. So she didn't show the same slide to everybody. She custom designed a narrative, a presentation for her individuals that need a lot of detail, the client, and then the team. And by doing that, reading that, all parties aligned perfectly. The project landed on time. Alina's reputation for exceptional stakeholder management continued. In fact, I think she got promoted like 6 months later. She was a superstar, EQ. One I've always struggled with. I've gotten better through the years, but it's awareness is key, and that's your ability to keep your cool when everyone else is losing theirs. It's, again, emotions are contagious. And your ability to self-regulate your emotions, that's a superpower. That separates the legends from the lightweights. Can you keep a cool head under stress? And these leaders don't suppress emotions, they channel them to productivity. So keep your cool, channel it to productivity. Recognize when they're running high. Here's another example. When a major client suddenly pulled a seven-figure contract, oof, Nathan, who's a CFO that I coached for a couple of years, felt the same panic as everyone else. Holy crap, what are we going to do? And while the CEO and some of his colleagues, they spiraled, he took 5 minutes alone, used some specific breathing techniques, cleared his head. Then what emerged was remarkable clarity. He got back together with the team, acknowledged the setbacks impacts. Here's the financial implications of this. Then he led a solution session that identified 3 new revenue opportunities. So here's what's happened. Here's what we're going to do. It's not the end of the world. We're in control here, folks. We can do something about it. And that emotional steadiness prevented a company-wide meltdown, a singular focus on the disaster versus the solution. And it came up with a diversification strategy that you use multiple times in the future that in the end actually strengthened the business. So keep your cool, channel that to solutions. Number 7, they give feedback that actually changes behavior. Just because you tell somebody what they need to improve doesn't mean that's going to be valuable to them. Masters of emotional intelligence deliver even the toughest feedback in a way that motivates rather than demoralizes. They ask questions. They use a Socratic approach. They take their time. They coach. They do not instruct. And they understand how something is said matters as much as what is said. It's crucial. Example of this. Sophia, who was a creative director, she needed to address performance issues with a very talented but inconsistent designer. And rather than focusing on the general criticism, this is what you're doing wrong, I need you to fix this, that one-way dialogue, which never works, she started by acknowledging this person's unique strengths, expressed genuine belief in their potential, talked about the situation, got their thoughts on why that could be, why that perception is there, why that shortcoming is there. She outlined some of the specific behaviors that needed to change and got buy-in from this designer, acknowledgement from this designer, how to go do something about it. She got buy-in and she maintained unwavering eye contact. She was warm. She wasn't critical. She didn't get emotional. This is the way to correct someone's behavior in a way that's actually going to work. Because 6 months later, that same designer had become one of the agency's most reliable stars and credited that turnaround, that improvement to that one conversation you had with Sophia. Pretty impressive stuff. So if you're new to the EQ game, you may be asking, wow, that's all cool. I get it. Where do I start building this muscle? Especially if I'm starting from scratch. And if you're listening to this and thinking, holy hell, my head needs serious work, don't sweat it. Emotional intelligence isn't easily fixed, but it is fixable because it's a skill set that you can learn. You can develop an approach that's very deliberate and create deliberate practice. So let me give you some ideas on how to level up on your EQ. First thing you have to do is you need to start with brutal awareness, self-awareness. You can't improve what you don't acknowledge. You need to own it, folks. Take a hard, honest look at your emotional patterns. What do others say about you behind your back? What triggers you? How do you respond under pressure? And where do your emotional blind spots lie? Could be with a person, it could be with a situation, could be with your communication. Where are your blind spots? So try this. Ask 5 people who you know, in fact, be honest with you, and ask them to describe how you handle conflict or criticism. And then be open to the feedback. You're going to need to be braced a little bit because very often in the early stages of this, our self-esteems, our egos don't want to hear this negativity. But it's not negativity. It's development information. The truth may sting in the beginning, But that temporary discomfort is the price of growth. And that's how we build this muscle. Know what people are saying about you. Find it out, own it, and we can go from there. Number two, pay attention to the room. Become a body language detective. Your emotions, first of all, show up in your body and your face before they register in your mind. So learn to recognize your own physical responses, tightening the jaw, squinting the eyes, furrowing your head, shallow breathing, clenched fist. Those are all early warning systems. So get in touch with your own body language and what you're projecting that maybe you don't want to be projecting, and practice this daily. Like maybe 3 times a day, stop, scan your body for tension, name the emotion you're feeling. Often it's overwhelmed. And this simple habit will help you build the foundation of emotional regulation. Identify it, think about how your body's responding to it, relax, make it conscious, because all these subconscious things are happening that are habitual to you. And you do it naturally. Well, you're going to have to do some unnatural things for a little while so that in time, those unnatural things become natural to you. Competency curve. Number 3, master the pause. The space between stimulus and response is where your power lies. And when emotions surge, train yourself to pause before acting. It may be counting to 10. It may be a 24-hour pause. It may be a walk around the building. But before you respond, get yourself in check. Pause. Catch yourself from being triggered and responding in a way that is going to be not so beneficial for your leadership perception. So when you feel emotionally hijacked, think about some of those things. Silently count to 5 or 10 before you respond. Put it on hold for just a minute. Let me think about that and let me get back to you. And it could be the same day. I am a big believer in the 24-hour rule. Generally, most everything that is a problem or a situation can wait a day for you to calm down, get your emotions in check, clear your mind. And in those 24 hours, you're always going to come up with a superior response or strategy. Whether it's a few seconds or 24 hours, that pause can make a major difference between a reaction you'll regret and a response that resolves. Number 4, upgrade your emotional vocabulary. See, most people operate with an emotional vocabulary of about 5 words: happy, sad, angry, scared, fine. That's what we have. And when you think about it, they may make you feel pathetic about it, right? I never knew I was that simple. That's what we're here for. So let's start expanding your emotional lexicon to describe your feelings. So you can identify feelings not only in yourself, mostly in yourself, but feelings that maybe you need to draw out in others with precision. So challenge yourself to name your exact emotional state throughout the day. Are you frustrated or are you disappointed? Are you anxious or concerned? Are you excited or hopeful? Are you overwhelmed or organized? Being specific gives you the fine control that you need. So expand your vocabulary, your internal vocabulary. Number 5, this is very difficult because we are ingrained in the ways we approach what I'm about to talk about. Become fascinated by other people's perspectives, better known often as empathy. Now, empathy isn't about agreeing, it's about genuinely understanding, seeing situations through other eyes. Why would they be doing that? Where does that come from? What's the root cause of that? Especially when you disagree. When you disagree, that's when you become argumentative, and nobody ever wins an argument, ever. And if you win, you're going to lose because you're going to lose the respect of the person you won the argument with. Don't play that game. So the power move in this is the next disagreement, whether it's with a boss, with a peer, with a coworker, with a direct report, force yourself to articulate the other person's positions so well that they say, yes, that's exactly what I mean. Only then have you earned the right to respond. So ask questions. Don't respond with a yeah, but. Respond with a yeah, and tell me more. Because very often we create perceptions or opinions or thoughts based on a limited data set. We open ourselves up and ask questions rather than fight that information. We get more information. Now we know where it's coming from. And once I understand the other person's experience, their perception of things, then you can start creating a response that's going to be beneficial to you and them. Avoid the arguments, ask questions to understand, to see perfectly about the situation from somebody else's eyes, especially when you disagree. Number 6, turn criticism into your secret weapon. People with underdeveloped EQ take feedback personally, but those with elite EQs see it as free consulting. Here's a game-changing approach. The next time you receive criticism, say, thank you for that perspective, instead of defending yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, don't respond with, yeah, but, because that's the same thing as saying, you're wrong. And you know, that's how you feel. They're wrong. Instead, say, yeah, okay, thanks for sharing that. Can you tell me more? When do I do that? How does that come across for me when I do that? Give me some examples so I can get it right in my memory. Probe, understand, get their side of things. This is gold to you. Dig deeper, accept it, and you'll be amazed at how this transforms confrontations into collaborations. Remember, when somebody's giving you criticism or feedback, they're being kind to you. They're being very kind to you. But our minds, our self-esteems often see it as an attack. So if you reframe feedback into somebody being generous to you, kind to you, that this person is probably being brave to give you feedback, especially if it's subordinate, depending on the source, right? To every bit of feedback, there is an absolute level of truth, a truth that maybe you've not perceived before. And even if it's just a perception of the truth, you need to know what that perception is. You created that perception. And now that you can become aware of it, get some details around it, you can start making the changes, creating the communication, alter your approach that can make the changes to overcome it, overcome what needs to be improved. But I can't fix what I don't know about. And so the more open you are to feedback and criticism, and it's going to be hard for some, the more open you are, the faster you're going to grow because you're going to take that feedback, take actionable steps to improve it. Number 7, practice emotional agility on a daily basis. EQ requires flexibility across situations, relationships. Different challenges demand different responses from your emotional toolkit. And that's a big part of what we're building here is your emotional toolkit. So here's a daily ritual. Before every significant interaction, ask yourself, what emotional approach would serve me best here? Just a quick switch. It's a trigger, a thought, which can redirect how I respond to this. And when you're consciously choosing your emotional strategy rather than falling into your habitual patterns, you're beginning to master EQ. So the bottom line, EQ is your competitive edge. You want to get ahead, you want to be successful, you want to move up the ladder, you want to be happier at work, under less stress, with happy employees that support you in ways you never imagined. Work on this alone, and it's going to pay back in major success. The leaders who will dominate the next decade aren't just smart, they're emotionally intelligent. They act authentically. They inspire naturally. They navigate complexity with grace and decisiveness. And that could be you, starting right now. And I want to introduce you something that you should be interested in. It's one of the best courses I've ever designed, and I can't believe it took me this long to do it. Come join us with our new course, the 90-Day Manager to Leader Jumpstart, and begin your leadership revolution. Learn all the essential leadership approaches, including EQ, that will lower your stress and your workload and get you out of the requirement of being a human Google where everyone comes to you for answers and drives outcomes like no one else ever dreamed. The question is whether you want to invest in the change. Some resources will give you the tools and the knowledge you need to become the best leader you can be. And business owners, CEOs, executives, you need to invest in yourself because it comes from the top. And you might want to think about, I encourage you to think about investing in your management team. Let's go on this journey together. You can't afford not to develop your EQ or the EQ of those who surround you. It's essential. And it's a game changer to your company's success. It's a game changer to your personal success. Now go out there and lead like you mean it and get after it, y'all.